There's color and excitement about a transport plane. As the huge Capital liner, trim and graceful, turns toward the loading ramp to end its trip, none of the beauty of flight is lost. To the people of an airline, a flight's a routine job, all in a day's work. They make a hard job look easy. Airline people are the background to a passenger's comfort. They are the reasons for the dependability of modern air travel. Their work may be little known, for passengers find no need to look beyond the luxuries of their own surroundings. Satisfied and contented with a flight which carried them safely through the skies, these passengers, millions of them every year, are seldom aware of the complex organization which makes each trip possible. Yet it is the people of this organization who make an airline. This is Capital. Behind this flight and all the others are thousands of skilled experts who make flying easy. No fuss, no bother, just pleasure. Merely pick up a telephone and dial a number. It's that easy to start a flight. At the other end of the wire, one of many voices, friendly and cheerful, is eager to help.
Good morning, Capital Airline.
Good morning.
Your flight is at noon. Yes, we have regular servicing on for you.
We could have Chicago at noon.
Now, it's would you like to go to Chicago at noon?
You have a light to leave at 5:45 and one is
The voice may be the crisp enunciation of the teeming north or the soft accent of the deep south. It may be the genial, breezy words of the Midwesterner or the alert tongue of the Easterner. But no matter where it is, this voice begins a chain of action that hums with efficiency and places all the facilities of the airline to the service of the passenger. Affable reservationists have at their fingertips information which is always changing, but which is always up to date. They know at a glance the seats which are available on any flight. Quickly, the space which has been requested is confirmed, and the passenger's name and his flight information are noted on a little slip of paper. An important piece of paper this, for to a reservationist it identifies a passenger and tells the story of his flight. But that isn't all. There's a carbon copy to each one of these slips, which will soon play an important part in this reservation service. One copy of these cards is tucked in a pigeonhole, a file for one particular flight, the story of all the passengers who will board that flight. And here it stays, a ready reference until the passengers begin their journeys in the air. The carbon copy becomes a message that is tapped out on teletype keys to be sped to a central location in Washington, D.C. From every point on the airline, messages are flashed to Washington. Here is the nerve center of Capital's communication system. This is the relay point where the story of each passenger is received and quickly rerouted to another circuit. The relay center is a busy spot, the staccato rhythm of machines never diminishing. This is a clearinghouse for miles of teletype lines which converge here and reach out over the entire system like spokes of a giant wheel. The story of the passenger, his flight, and other facts are received here from the station in the form of a perforated tape. To relay this message, or any message, to its proper destination, the tape is fed into a transmitting unit. Working like the roll on a player piano, the message is clicked out and simultaneously printed on the receiving machine at its destination. In a few brief seconds, the passenger's story has been raced to the strategic center, the hub of all the airline's reservation offices, Space Control, it's called. As soon as the message is received by Space Control, it's given to an agent. Busy fingers transcribe the information received from all the stations throughout the airline to one of the charts neatly arrayed before the agents. The story of each passenger, the story on each slip of paper in every office, is recorded here in condensed form. There's one chart for each flight each day. All the seats on every flight are controlled from this focal point. These people are the watchful guardians of reservations. Eye-catching newspaper advertisements, colorful ads in national magazines tell more and more people about the services and conveniences of air travel. Travelers hear about Capital through these ads and those which come into the home on radio and on television. Salesmen explain the product of air travel in many ways, such as speaking before audiences and by making personal calls. These salesmen find themselves in unusual places, even on the spring training grounds of major league clubs. For baseball teams, professional and collegiate football squads, groups of all types number among the airline's customers. Versatile salesmen describe the advantages of flight, the savings in time and expense, the luxurious rest and ease of flight. Advertising plays a major role in the sales programs, and talented artists, experienced ad men, conceive ingenious ways of describing the airline to the public. Production rate is heavy, and they must work hurriedly, but the results are always effective, vivid, and picturesque. Many passengers learn of Capital through modern ticket offices, always prominently located. Designed by the airline's own architects, these offices are often the first introduction to air travel. The familiar name glows in neon red at the corner of State and Monroe in Chicago, often called the busiest crossroads in the world. Or in the heart of Atlanta's business district. In the city of steel, Pittsburgh, amidst the constant rush at Liberty and Oliver Street. In the center of the commerce and business of industrial Birmingham. In the nation's capital, at the threshold of business, government, and embassies, and all the charm of Washington. The bustling motor city of Detroit, or in quaint yet busy New Orleans. An airport is a thrilling sight. This is the real beginning of a trip high above the clouds. Passengers arrive by regular airport buses, by private car, and by taxicab. Some stations are smaller than others. A few are operated by a single person who is a specialist in all phases of ground operations. But at small stations and large stations alike, the passenger learns that everything is arranged for his pleasure. Willing people are anxious to respond to his every request. It's at the airport ticket office that the passenger checks his baggage or buys his ticket, if he hasn't already done so, in one of the downtown ticket offices. His ticket is collected and his baggage is weighed and tagged. The ticket has a long journey to make, too, for tickets must be assembled and placed in an envelope to be sent to Washington, D.C., where they find a permanent home in the airline's treasury offices. In Capital's general offices, a long sweep of massive buildings at the National Airport, the tickets are recorded on tiny film, microfilm. The thousands of tickets which pour into the Revenue Accounting Department demand the speed of machine tabulation. Handwritten ledger books are seldom suited to the tempo of the aviation industry. Tickets must be audited, of course, by experts in fares, but from then on, machine accounting takes over. Instead of words or figures, cards are marked with small holes, and these holes, punched by machine, represent the accounting facts of the ticket. The holes direct the flow of cards in the sorting machine. Each card obediently drops into its rightful slot in precise order. Then they're ready to act as printers. As the cards march into the tabulator, they send printing keys upward to make an accurate record on the books. A Treasury Department has many responsibilities, and machines can't do everything. There must be authorities in finance, tax experts, auditors, and accountants. At the airport, last-minute preparations for the flight must be made by ground operations agents. The load must be planned carefully, the weight and balance of the airplane calculated. The multitude of pre-flight checks a pilot must make preview every aspect of the trip ahead, from takeoff to landing. Captains and first officers are masters of the miracle of flight, the sciences of aerodynamics, navigation, and meteorology. Every 6 months, each pilot climbs aboard a little toy-like airplane, which really is an airplane in every respect, except that it doesn't fly. The hood is closed because this is practice in instrument flying. In a modern airplane, instruments and electronic highways in the sky guide the pilot on a true course. This is the Link Trainer. With instructions from the operator, the pilot flies a simulated route. He directs his flight by the navigation instruments on the panel in front of him, just as though he were in the cockpit of a big capital liner. All the radio signals he would receive in the air are transmitted to him by the Link Trainer operator. The course he flies is charted, leaving an ink trail of the flight he makes. There is baggage to be loaded, and the flight is then ready for its passengers. But not always is there warm sunshine for such work on capital's routes. Far to the north, operations agents bundle themselves against frigid winds to get ready for takeoff. Aviation has a lot of fans, but there are few so ardent as Bucky, a little fawn who leaves his home in the dark woods to meet every flight and greet every passenger. Travelers always have a tidbit ready for this aviation enthusiast. Air mail and air cargo are an important part of an airline's business. Shippers have learned the value of speed in distributing their products. Letters travel hundreds of miles in a few short hours. A transport plane serves many people in many ways.
Capital Airlines Flight 901, the President. 12:45 p.m. Capital Liner, leaving for Chicago. Now ready at Gate 7 through the North Concourse. All aboard, please.
To welcome the passengers aboard is the ever-popular, charming air hostess. Like all airline people, she is carefully selected from applicants through interviews by highly experienced personnel experts. Even before she steps aboard a plane, an air hostess receives comprehensive training in air transportation. She is taught the rudiments of flight and navigation and a multitude of other interesting subjects. And she becomes a specialist in the high standards of airline service. Capital operates several schools to keep its people well informed in this ever-expanding world of aviation. Once the plane is aloft, its flight is carefully watched by licensed flight dispatchers who know the position of planes at all times. Small numbered blocks are moved across a chart to show the location of each plane. Ground-to-air radio keeps the airline in constant contact with its flights. Every message is promptly logged. Tasty meals, breakfasts, luncheons, and complete course dinners are served by the hostess from her compact galley. There's a living room atmosphere about a transport plane. Delicious food, snacks, cigarettes, magazines, and mints are complimentary, just a part of the service, which makes flying so popular. Much of the ease of flight comes from top-notch maintenance. Every part of every airplane, each engine is continually inspected and overhauled to maintain maximum efficiency and performance. Periodically, on a regular schedule, planes are brought to maintenance headquarters in Washington to undergo thorough inspection and overhaul by experienced mechanics, engineers, and technicians. Here, engines, aircraft, accessories, parts, in fact, all the equipment of an airline receives the scrutinizing attention of specialists. The family automobile goes to the garage usually only when it's in need of repair. A capital liner goes to its garage while it's still in perfect operating condition. That's so it will always be kept that way. There is no part of an airplane which is not closely examined. Yet despite constant inspections, despite flawless performance, each plane regularly is completely disassembled and rebuilt with new parts if necessary. Many testing machines are used, such as this one for hydraulic units. New parts are shaped in the machine shop. Radio equipment, the key to modern air navigation, is kept in top shape and tested thoroughly before being installed on an airplane. Like the radio compass, equipment is scientifically analyzed and tested to ensure operating accuracy. There's even an upholstery shop, as large as those in many furniture factories. Testing machines are often more complicated and more costly than the unit to be tested. And the fuel injection pump being checked here is but one of thousands of parts which make up a complete engine. The skill and craft of trained technicians is necessary to maintain the myriad instruments on an airplane. A A propeller must be in perfect balance. A cigarette placed on the tip of a blade would throw a finished propeller off balance. You can't wear out an engine after only 1,200 hours of use, but that's when the engine of a capital liner comes into overhaul for its regular shakedown treatment. The engine is disassembled. All parts are doused into a unit which acts just like an automatic dishwasher. When all the grease and oil have been removed, another machine does the rinsing. The most minute of cracks, which the human eye cannot detect, are exposed by the power of magnaflux. Cylinders parade toward an infrared oven, where they're expanded so that all parts fit with microscopic precision. At the other end of the line, each part joins up with the engine's other working members, which have received rigid inspection. In orderly stages, all parts, either new or like new, are built into one massive mechanical giant of 18 cylinders, 2,500 horsepower. But before the engine is ready for flight, before it's housed in its nacelle, it must do a stint on the ground. The engine is mounted in a test cell, and a wooden propeller for cooling is attached to the shaft. The engine goes no place, but it performs just as though it were in the air. While it's running, operating the equivalent distance of a trip from Chicago to Washington, it's studied carefully through instruments. Only after it has passed this severe test is it ready for flight. This, then, has been the story of an airline. We have seen the technique and the know-how of those who make an airline. We've looked beyond the ease of flight to the real reason for the safety and comfort of flight, to the people who are responsible for the high standards of air transportation. This is Capital, one of the nation's oldest airlines, one of the nation's finest. It's an organization of men and women who belong to the air age. Their jobs cover the vast scope of a modern and ever-growing industry. They make an airline.